How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the studio, and today I have come into the studio for a very specific reason, because there is a package that needs opening, and I'm pretty sure I know what it is. I'm not 100% sure, but it does say playing cards on the box, so I think I'm right. I think it's going to be something really, really special, because every so often a deck just comes along that just speaks to you, and it's different for everyone, but I think this deck is gonna mean a lot to me. So I'm gonna open it, I'm gonna review it, I'm gonna take a look at it, but also I wanna talk about my top 5 decks of cards, because this is something that magicians constantly think about, and now more than ever, with the playing card industry being so big, it's a difficult choice to pick just 5 decks that are your favorites. But hopefully today I have got 5 decks that I've picked as my favorite in no particular order. Before we get into that, I'm gonna crack this open and take a look at this deck of cards. So, let's take a look. Wow, okay, I can't wait to see this in person. It has been a long time coming. This deck was on Kickstarter at the same time as my original dystopian deck was on Kickstarter, which feels like such a long time ago. It's more than a year ago now, and since then I've had another Kickstarter. So this has been a long time coming. Wow, there's something else that fell out, a little sticker. I'll take a look at that in a second. These are the shadows. First of all, quick look at the box. These are the Shadows playing cards by Awareness Playing Card Company, Jordan Whitehead and Dane Valnes. Is it Valnes or Valnes? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, I'm so sorry. But this is the box. Fairly minimal, we've just got the word Shadows down each side, which I actually think it could have done without the text. I'm not a big fan of the text of the font. It looks a little bit like it was taken out of Microsoft Word, which is my only criticism. I really, really like that design on the front. Cracking the box open, we have a 4 of Hearts reveals on the smaller tabs, and on the bigger tab, Depression Awareness, which is the whole topic of this deck. This deck is designed for depression awareness, and as I've said in the past, I'm a big fan whenever a deck of cards brings a serious topic to the magic and playing card world, because these are conversations that are not often had in that community. And this deck, hopefully, I think really nails it. There's a few criticisms I have, which I'll get into. I don't think it's perfect. The deck itself, the back design, is based off a Rorschach test. Now, if you don't know what a Rorschach test, it's like ink and you fold the paper and it creates patterns, and it's used in psychology, you know, images can be seen in them and so on. This is really well done. I saw some of the other alternate back designs and I think they went for the best one, so yeah, the design was really, really well thought out. The Ace of Spades, the first card, sort of gives you a glimpse as to what the rest of the deck is going to be. Ink splattering from it like so. Big fan of that, and that happens on every single card throughout the deck. So yeah, really, really well done, really well considered. And that sort of black and white look to it all. It really does look like white cards have just had ink spilt on them, which is exactly what they were going for. Then you come to the court cards. This is one of my only criticisms. The court cards do use actual photos of people. They are actual photographs done in black and white. And, you know, to give a little bit of praise for the court cards, I don't completely hate them. I'm not a big fan of when photography is introduced into a deck that uses just illustration, because I think it can make the illustration look a little bit cheap and the photography look a little bit out of place. So I don't think the two go well together, but I mean, I've got to be honest, they are well included. It's not just a photo slapped on there. We really have the images sort of blending into the black and white imagery like so. So it's not horrendously done by any means. It is well included. I just wish there had been illustrations. You know, if you want to include actual people, I'm not against that. I did it in my own decks, but make it fit the style of the rest of the deck, definitely. And the hearts might just be my favorite suit of the deck. That sort of ink splatter looks a lot more like blood when it's next to hearts, which again is a risky thing to do in a deck that deals with such a serious topic, to sort of have red splatters that, you know, could be interpreted as blood, but it definitely does not feel horror. It definitely feels subtle and very meaningful, as does everything in this deck. This has clearly been well thought out, and the use of white space on this is just great. Then we come to the Jokers. There is a semicolon symbol in the middle of a very powerful image. Little bit of text underneath with a national hotline and a website, the national hotline for America. The Jokers are identical. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the image. I really think that that could have been a back design in itself, which is always the sign of a good design. Overall, big thumbs up from me, big fan of the deck. Congratulations to Jordan and Dane on a wonderful deck of cards that is going right on my shelf. And talking of that, today I want to focus the rest of this video on my top 5 playing cards. I'm going to take you through 5 decks of cards as well as a couple of honourable mentions of what my favourite decks of all time are. Okay, let's get into it. So, in no particular order, starting off with the Innocence playing cards. These are from Daniel Schneider, and I've seen these in a few different favourite playing cards videos because people seem to love these, and I'm not just jumping on the bandwagon. I genuinely think that this deck is just so well done. Taking a look at the box, first of all, that beautiful minimal black and white design on the back, just a wonderful, wonderful imagery, and just everything about this, the little dot artwork style is fantastic. Daniel Schneider, as many of you know, is just a beast when it comes to designing playing cards, and this is just no exception. So this is one of the first cards that really sort of catches your eye, that imagery of the sword and the sort of flowing hair. At first, just because of the sort of lightness of the design, you might be convinced into thinking that it's a minimal deck, that the back design doesn't have much on it. But then the closer you look, you begin to see sort of scrolls and moons and flowers and sort of natural imagery, and then of course the sort of woman and the roses are all so well integrated into the deck. I'm jealous that I did not come up with this deck of cards. That is the Innocence playing cards, which is definitely firmly in my top 5 decks of cards. The only criticism I have, and I'm going to say a criticism for each of the decks because I don't think it's perfect, I don't think any of them are perfect, is actually the box. I would prefer, I can't speak. I would prefer if the back design wasn't on the box. In this particular case, I think keeping it completely minimal with just those 2 roses would have been really, really nice. Just a seamless white box, just sort of hiding the mystery until you crack it open. Up next, again in no particular order, taking a step in a slightly different genre of playing cards, we have the Star Wars White Silver Special Edition cards from Theory 11. This is just me being a nerd and me absolutely loving Star Wars. I considered putting the Mandalorian deck into the top 5, but as much as I love The Mandalorian as a show, I don't think the deck of cards quite hits it on the head. It's good, it's great, don't get me wrong, but I think it misses just too few many things. So I've gone for the White Silver Special Edition deck, partly just because I love this box so much. I think it feels so different to any of the other decks that are very sort of black or grey. This one really, really stands out, and that silver, that shine is just great. Star Wars is big, it is vast, there's a lot of things to include, and this deck mainly focuses on the original and the sequel trilogy, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of pretty much all of Star Wars, but I would have loved just a few more prequel references, because when you go through this deck, you realise that there's basically nothing from the prequels apart from 1 card. Essentially, there is 1 card representing 3 out of the 9 films, which again I think is a little bit odd, but looking past that, we have so many, just reference after reference. It is absolutely packed. The cards are just so well designed, the characters they did include, they've nailed pretty much every single one. Plus, look at that Ace of Spades. I could get that framed on the wall. I think I've said that before. I think I might print this off and just have a big frame of it. I love it so much. So yeah, that is the Star Wars playing cards. Again, there are a few things that I don't like about it. Some of the stuff I've already mentioned. I don't think that Obi-Wan is done very well in it. I think they should have gone for a prequel design of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just looks a little bit too similar to the old man Luke Skywalker that they've included. I mean, to be fair, they could do a whole deck just about the prequels. I think that would be really, really welcome and would sell out like that. It would just be, it would be so, so good. They could also do one about the Clone Wars. They could do one about the new Obi-Wan show. There's a lot of potential in their Star Wars line, but as it is, this is my favourite out of the Star Wars playing cards and makes its way firmly into my top 5. So there we go. Next up on the list, we have something that I'm sure many people will agree with. It's a simple choice, the Remedies. The Remedies by Daniel Madison and Daniel Schneider. I've spoken about this deck at length, I think that it is a near perfect deck of cards. For what it's trying to do, this is a performable deck, and if you were going to get your first deck of cards, you know, this would be a very, very good entry because it delivers on so many things. It's performable, it's standard enough that it doesn't stand out, but it's beautiful enough that you could display it. It just gets the balance so right. And I have gone for the red original remedies just because, yeah, I mean, the colour itself inspired the colour of my first deck of cards. You know, I have to be honest about that. I love the colour. They handle like a dream, and they are full of tricks and reveals. You get an angle Z gimmick, you get lots of little card reveals. The rose and the feather, beautiful imagery and done just so well. I mean, there's not really much more I can say about this deck. Next up, we have another deck of cards. Can you tell what it is just from the side of it? Maybe not. This is a Madison deck of cards. It's my favourite Madison deck, and I've gone for this maybe a little bit out of nostalgia. It was one of my first Madison decks of cards, but it's just a fantastic deck. I'm going to tell you what it is. It is the pink Trawlers. I've gone for the pink Trawlers. I was never lucky enough to own the blue ones. The pink ones, I love the colour pink, and I think it works so well on a borderless deck of cards. For me, borderless decks of cards, I'm not always a huge fan of, so it is a miracle that a borderless deck has made it into my top 5 at all. Borderless decks are almost a whole genre in themselves, and this one, when you spread through it, it's bright, it's bold, that pink going right to the edge with a very sort of tight, tessellating pattern is a risky thing to do, and yet it really, really works. We have a small ace of spades, and the diamonds in this deck, the ace of diamonds, is made up of those two Madison symbols, which I think is really, really clever. Again, pretty standard across the faces. I hadn't realized how many of these decks were standard across the faces, and maybe that's saying something about the sort of cards I like, where, you know, I perform them, I use them, I'm not afraid to go out there and, you know, wreck decks of cards because I do see them as tools. Big fan. We have one more deck to go, and it's a deck that I'm sure you will have seen in the thumbnail, so no surprise here. These are Memento Mori by Chris Ramsey and Murphy's Magic. I've gone for the original Memento Mori, not the blue ones. Why do those exist? Anyway, I've gone for the original Memento Mori just simply because this is such a unique concept for a deck of cards. First of all, the back design is absolutely gorgeous. This is just so customized. Those court cards, I could look at them all day and find brand new color combinations that I wasn't aware of. Using so many colors in a deck of cards is super risky. It is really, really risky. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a color that's not included here. You know, green, yeah, it's got it. Yellow, it's got it. Purple, it's got it. Pink, dark blue, there are oranges, there are all sorts of colors going on here, and yet it doesn't feel busy. It's a miracle that it does not feel busy or overcrowded. A skull on a deck of cards is sometimes considered a cliche, but when it's done as uniquely and beautifully as this, I really can't fault it. That is Memento Mori. One last look at the box. Super, super minimal, which is what I was saying about the Innocence deck of cards. Just letting the design speak for itself and not overcrowding it. It's got a sort of wraparound design of the colours. So there we have it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. It was honestly a joy to come into the studio today and share with you my top 5 playing cards and a quick look at the depression awareness playing cards as well. Yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up button down below, subscribe if you're new. All of those things really help me out and help the video get to more people. So if you did enjoy it, yeah, please do that. All right, I think that's everything. I will see you very, very soon.